Hey, everybody. Welcome to Bayside Granite Bay Singles. We're glad you're here tonight. Hello, Dan Houk. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. It's great to be here.
It is
Thanks
great.
for having me.
What about you, Dan?
I'm doing great. I'm
Your
just
sound's on today.
It is on today,
This
and
is
yesterday was like the biggest 36-second mistake of my career. I should just when you're on Zoom, I'm just going to tell everybody right now, anybody that's
Good.
out there in the business world and you're running a Zoom thing and you have a video, make sure you check the share computer sound box.
I'm just going to tell everybody.
It is so important that you do that so that your boss, namely Pastor Ray Johnson, doesn't point it out to the world. It didn't work.
Wow, poor guy.
I was beating
what are
myself
friends
up
for, man? Right?
I was beating myself up for hours after that. I was like, come on.
It's so good, dude.
Teresa, Karen Percy says hi. And Kevin, hey, Kevin. Who else do I miss?
Look at all you guys.
Sarah. Hey, Sarah.
Kevin Yerby's a top fan. It says right there on his post. Attaboy.
He's a big deal.
He is a big deal. All of you guys are big deals, man. We're hope you're doing well. It's we're just talking about the tumultuous ride we're all on in this road.
Right.
And like I say, I'm just gonna put that in the back burner and just do whatever they tell me because it takes my anxiety level down a little bit and helps with my blood pressure. But we're so glad you guys are here. What's going on in your world, Dan Houk, Mr. Santa Rosa?
Well, I whenever I say this, the people that are online in the Sacramento Valley area get a little jealous, but it's about 68 and sunny and beautiful. So, no, but things are going well here. We had an incredible outreach this last 2 weeks ago. We've been doing an outreach in the local community. We kind of stole the idea from Folsom. Bayside Folsom, but we built these little outdoor seating areas for restaurants, for 8 different restaurants in the downtown area, and awesome. It's like the pictures have gone viral. It's like 68,000 views, and it's pretty cool to see the kind of fame God's getting for some people that did some really loving.
Well, if I know you were involved with at least some of the building, being your cabinetry background.
They wouldn't let me. They wouldn't let. They said no. They're doing it. They had the kids do it. So students
in terms of advice and stuff like that.
Yeah, I did say you need your square a little squarer.
Yeah, that boy. Well, some of us are more square than others.
We are. Yeah, it's good to be a square.
Right now, the three of us are rectangles. We're not squares. We're just rectangles.
We are.
Yeah.
Well, what about you, Dan, Crystal? So, other than the little hiccup on through the internet world yesterday.
Well, I'll tell you what, we've the Thrive webinar that happens on Wednesdays has been just kicked up a notch. We had Carey Newhoff. I'm not sure if there are a lot of people may know who he is that are not in the Christian leader world, but he has 1.5 million downloads of his podcast and his blog every single month. Mm-hmm. And he runs it out of his basement. He actually started a church up in Canada called Connexus Church. And he has, and I know the numbers may not seem like much, but it's just amazing to see how God has used him. And so we have had so much engagement since yesterday with the things that he shared and some of the angles of saying, hey, look, let's not wait any longer for things to go back to normal. Let's be innovative, creative. God created us that way. And let's do something different, do something new, and try anything to be able to get the gospel out. So it was just incredibly encouraging. And one of my favorite things that I'm getting a chance to do these days, and this is all I'll say, I'll just turn it over after this, is I get to spend a lot of time with some great pastors and talking with them and encouraging them. I spend probably about 3 hours of my week, 15-minute time frames with different pastors, just helping walk through some things you're going through. And
fantastic, man.
I tell you what, we need to pray for those who are in pastoral ministry and in Christian leadership, because this is probably one of the most challenging times to navigate through. And somebody might say, well, we don't have persecution like they have in the Middle East and things like that. Yeah, that may be true, but we are responsible for the many thousands of lives that God has put in our influence.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
And how we lead, what we say, and what we do is incredibly important in the eternal perspective. So it's been great, Dave. Thanks for asking.
You know what? It's real, man. What's happening in this world right now? And I know you guys know that we had a staff meeting at Granite Bay today, and Lori Harris, Pastor John Harris's wife, she's been in the midst of so many different national discussions because of her. She leads a national cheerleading thing, and she's a real high energy, high impact kind of a person. Anyway, she talked about the impact, not just the COVID virus itself, but all the results of it.
Yeah.
And I mean, the alcoholism, the abuse, the non-reporting of abused kids because they're not going to school, and the suicides.
Yeah.
From youth especially, it's like tenfold what it normally is. And so you guys, this not to bring it down, but just to get real a little bit, we got to make sure we're praying for our friends and for our country, and that God does a miracle, that clearly the enemy is on the march, and I'm going to tell you this is what Lori said, and she was right on, hit it right on the head. The devil's hacked off because he's been throwing everything he can at the church. And then he goes, man, they figured a way around that one. They got around that one, you know? So God is gonna prevail. We just have to keep our wits about us and keep praying, because I cannot overestimate the power of your prayer, you guys. And it's really important. And that's what tonight's about. It's about friendship and praying for those too. You know, they're important. Without that, man, we're all in a world of hurt if we don't have friends like these guys. Man, I feel so close to you guys. You're speaking of encouragers, by the way. We were talking about Gil Stiglitz. Dan Crystal, you are a world-class encourager.
He is,
and so is Dan Houk. So you guys are fantastic. But before we get any further, speaking of praying, let me pray us in. Heavenly Father God, you are the God of everything. Father, we lay down all of our stuff at your feet, God. All of our anxieties, all of our worries, all of this stuff that we're having to carry now, emotionally and physically and financially, God. Father, I just ask you to reach out to everybody who's here tonight, God, and all of us, all across the nation, God, that you would have your way with these families, God. Hedge protection around everybody's house, God. Keep the enemy away, God. We know you're big, God. You can do anything, God. And you're our friend, God. And God, that's what we're talking about tonight, is about friendship, God. And let this discussion lift up people, God. Let this discussion touch our hearts in a way that hasn't before, God. Father, I ask you to be with Dan and myself as we go through this, and everybody who's watching and people who are going to. And just let this be an uplifting, great night, God. We love you so much. Thanks for your love and your mercy and your grace. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Take it, Dan Houk.
Hey, you know, before I really launch into it too, I wanted to kind of jump off of part of what you said about this new season and some of the things that are going on, and really building relationships, building friendships. It's been incredible to see there is something God is doing that I see. I think where God's going with it, you can't always know everything, but like in Sonoma County, for instance, I had started meeting some of the pastors of all the different churches down here around Santa Rosa, and a great group of guys, and some of the ladies too, some lady pastors. So we were getting together and we were praying together. But once COVID hit, we started doing this weekly Zoom call. So we would get on and we would just pray for each other. And it's been really incredible to hear kind of the stories and some of the struggles, the pastors, because we're like everybody else out there, right? We have new challenges we're facing. We're isolated sometimes. And so we know you guys at home or who are watching this right now are also facing pressures. And so to be able to sit as a group of pastors and talk, there has been some friendships developing out of that. It's been really cool. Like texts that go on, hey, I'm praying for you this Sunday. Hope you have a great service. Hey, I saw you did this. Excellent job. I mean, you know, a little dirty little secret to you all out there. Sometimes pastors can be competitive. Now, I know that doesn't sound possible.
Amazing.
Sometimes, I mean, there's this like territorial. It's really not godly, but there's this kind of like, that's my person and that's my person, and like they feel like if one church succeeds, it means another one's failing, right?
Right.
That could be further from the truth, and really that disunity destroys the move of God in certain places.
100%.
And so in Sonoma, we've been meeting together and we were praying together. And after our meeting, we started meeting with the county officials, supervisors, health officers, and different people in the county. We get on these calls as pastors, and it has been an incredible bridge and relationships that are starting to get built. And the church is now getting much more connected to and vital in the community, seen as vital, seen as important. And God's doing something, so yeah, the enemy's trying to undo, hurt, destroy. God has a way of taking very difficult situations, and sometimes you see it at the time, sometimes you see it later, but he's doing something. And even what's going on right now, think about this. We're sitting online. We've been doing this every week. You guys have. This is phenomenal. I mean, it's not as good as getting a hug, but this is phenomenal to be able to sit here, talk, interact. You guys, I see your comments on there. It's so great. We're still connecting. And I think going forward, we're going to be able to keep some of the things that we're learning during this COVID crisis time. We're sitting online. We've been doing this every week. You guys have. I hear an echo. I don't know if that's me or somebody else. But anyway, so I just want to encourage everyone with that. God is definitely at work. Things are tough, and I know things are tough for you guys. But sometimes when things are the toughest is when you begin to see God's hand move, right? And this is about friendship tonight. And I got two of my best buddies right here on this chat. But I'd like you guys to do something. This is kind of fun. I want you to think of your best friend, like one of your closest friends when you were in school. So it could be high school,
elementary school,
anything.
College,
So just write their name in the feed. Just right now, just tap in their name and hit enter and then put it in the feed. Let's see how many different friends, best friends you guys can name from your from your childhood. So Brian, there we go. I don't have my Facebook out, or I type in there. I had a best buddy named Scott. First, second, third grade, we were inseparable. And then he moved to Minnesota. I don't know why somebody would move to Minnesota. No, I'm kidding. I know some of you are from Minnesota, but we were just tight. We were closely connected, had a great friendship. He came over to my house. I went to his all the time. Look at that. You guys all had very close friends, best friends. And it's fun sometimes you relive and you remember those relationships. And it just kind of makes your heart feel good. You kind of feel that love come back.
Oh, yeah.
And maybe you even have the friends still, from third grade on to now. It's cool when you have those lifelong friendships. But that's one kind of friendship. And I think those are the friendships we tend to focus on the most, and they're important. But there are three kinds of friendships that everybody really needs. If you don't have them in your life, you'll probably feel out of balance, or you really won't grow as much as you could if you had all three of them. And that first friendship I mentioned that you were typing in the text, your best friends, that's a balancer. That's a person that you kind of maintain a balance with. Like they're pouring into you, you're pouring into them. They're a peer. They feel like a peer. They're kind of on the same plane as you. And we have those kinds of friends come in and out of our life as we get older. And so that balanced friendship is critically important. And we'll kind of define the three friendships, because sometimes we think we have one kind of friendship when it's really a different kind of friendship. And if we mix them up a little bit, it can get confusing and awkward. And so that first friendship is the balancer. The second one is the giver. The giver friendship is really the friendship where you're giving to somebody, right? you're pouring into somebody. Yeah. And it could be you get something out of it, but it's not like they're going to give you advice. They're going to come over and help you move. This is the person that it's your primary responsibility to pour into their life. And we have to have those kinds of people in our lives that we are pouring into. And then the last one is the receiver friend. And that's the friend that you're receiving from, right? So you're in the friendship, they're pouring into you, and you get it. You're not there to be necessarily their equal because they have something you need that you don't have. And so they're going to pour into your life. We go through periods of time where we might miss one piece or other of those kinds of friendships, but we need all three of them. And sometimes people call the giver Paul, right? Because he was the one pouring into Timothy. Timothy was the receiver, and Barnabas was the balancer, right? Paul and Barnabas were buddies. They were equals. And so we need those three kinds of friends. There's a Proverb 18:24 that says this: a man of too many friends comes to ruin, but there is a friend who sticks closer than a brother. And so I just want to point out that Dan Crystal has 3,800 friends on Facebook, and Schaefer, he has 3,100 friends. So according to Proverbs, you guys are in trouble.
Again?
So, shoot. Speaking of which, go to @Dan_Crystal on Facebook.
Add me as a friend. I told Dan Crystal earlier, the reason I don't have that many is because I don't accept Nigerian princes as my friend, right? So you get those weird friend requests. It seems like every odd request from India or Pakistan, Dan Crystal is already friends with them. I've noticed that.
Well, funny thing is, I actually became friends with two of them from Pakistan. I'm Pakistan. One's name is Newman, and then there was another one. Her name was, oh shoot, forgot her name. I guess I'm not that big of a friend.
I call that more of an acquaintance.
Yeah, exactly. That's more of an acquaintance. So, that's more of I know they exist.
Right.
I'm thinking Dan and I and Crystal, we need a little boundaries class or something.
Yeah, you do.
Actually, I call it marketing. Is really what I call it.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Well, everybody gets it. It's funny. There are some people that manage their Facebook account like that, right? So they say, the people that are on my Facebook are the people I really want and that I know. And you might have 50, right? And that's cool because you know everybody on your Facebook. There are literally people I look at, I go, why are they in my feed? Oh, I'm friends with them. I have no idea who they are, but they're my Facebook friend. So the reality is, though, why would it be that if you have too many friends, you come to ruin? I mean, if you think about it. Well, the reality is if you have too many friends, you don't have that close friend that sticks closer than a brother. You don't have that person who's got your back. You're spread too thin. And I think there's studies that have said on the upper end, like on the top end, possibly, you can have 150 relationships at any given time. So that's like close relationships. It might be, if you're married, a spouse or children, parents and friends, coworkers, whatever. If you have a close relationship, the max you'll have is about 150 at any given time. And so, when someone wants to be my friend, I think, okay, who's gonna get kicked out of my friend circle? Because I only have so much time in my life, and so I have to really think about friendships. And obviously, everybody that comes into your life starts as a stranger. I was thinking about that just tonight as I was getting ready for this, thinking that Dan Crystal was a stranger to me. I mean, at one point I met Dan's wife, Tanya, first. She'd come to a class and she began to tell me, oh, we just moved here, and told me about her husband who was a pastor. I thought, oh, that's cool. I'll get to know him. And I remember meeting him. He seems cool, nice guy. But I knew nothing about Dan, nothing. He was a total stranger. And we just, over time got to know each other. And we've developed a very close friendship. And it was the same thing with Schaefer. When I first started in ministry, I told Michael, the guy that, was before me, I said, I will not do ministry unless I have worship. And so he figured out a way to get Dave Schaefer. And so that, I didn't even know Dave. He just came in and we met, before we started doing ministry together. And we have become extremely close friends over the years.
See, that's just proof you have to be careful of what you pray for.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I actually listen to country sometimes now. I mean, I never would have done that. So, yeah, but that's how it all starts out with everybody, right? So even Facebook friends, you get in there, you may get to know some people on Facebook more. People that come to work that you get to know for the first time. Everybody starts off as a stranger. And I think the key is to be intentional. The key is to be intentional about your friendships. I'm actually, shameless plug here, I'm working on a book. It's going to be curriculum, actually. It's called Intentional Relationships. And really the gist of it is we have to understand ourselves. We have to understand other people. And we have to put intention into having good friendships. And so I really want to talk about the three. I'm going to kind of leave regular friendship off to the end. I want to start by talking about the giver kind of a friendship. And it's really a friendship. It's kind of a mentoring type friendship. And if you're going to be a mentor to somebody else, if you're going to be a giver and pour into somebody else's life, it's not going to come about by you looking at somebody that really needs some serious help and going, you really need someone to come alongside you. I think I'm the person. It's going to be probably a relationship that develops. You meet somebody, you find out, they have a skill I need. You can have mentorships at work. You can have mentorships in ministry. You can have mentorships in a lot of different areas spiritually. There's so many different areas where you can have somebody mentor you. It could even be like I see this at Divorce Care. It's such a phenomenal ministry that Bayside does and that Dave leads. And a lot of the people in that ministry have been divorced, right? They've been through an experience that really devastated them, but they came through, that they grew through. And now they're facilitators, and they sit at tables and they talk to people and they encourage other people through that. And so in a normal life circumstance, they might totally be a friend, but in that area, they become a mentor. And every single one of you at home has been through something. Every single one of you has skills, has gifts. You have something to offer other people. And it says in 2 Corinthians 1 that, God comforts us with comfort that comes from him, and that he gives us comfort to give other people that are going through the same things. That's a horrible translation, but the bottom line is, we're to be a channel of blessing to other people. So everything you've learned and gone through is not just for you, especially your pain. I mean, a lot of times the pain that we go through finds purpose in the mentorship process or helping somebody else. Imagine what would happen if everybody who's online right now, like if you said, okay, this is what I'm good at, and you just started jumping into it, finding people to help, it could be a game changer, right? If we were all using our gifts and our experiences or our pain or the things we've gone through to really help other people.
100%.
And so that's a huge part. And just kind of to be quite honest with you, I did some of that at Bayside. It was really interesting when I went. I left Bayside for a 2-year sabbatical and went to the beach and had a 2-year vacation.
I know.
So, but it was really interesting what God did in my life, because when I went to San Diego, I was surrounded with young leaders, and I really hadn't been in singles ministry as much. No offense, Dave, but I was surrounded by young leaders. And so I just kind of started talking to them and listening to some of their struggles. And I started discovering, oh my gosh, and I've been through that. And I realized, oh, God wants me to help these people. And there was an area I realized in my life that I had not had. And I began to take that role as a mentor to some of the young leaders down there. And I'm telling you, it really did something inside of me. Like, I started changing. It started helping me. And now it's something that I literally intentionally go after. I had not intentionally gone after it before. It just was something that happened every once in a while, but now I go after it. Like if there's somebody I can help, a young leader I can help, I try to build a relationship. And if there's something I can offer them, I've made tons of mistakes, you guys, and I don't want those wasted. So I want you guys, just if you could, to just kind of post in there if there's somebody you've poured into, like maybe there's an area of your life that you're really confident in that you have been able to help people with. Go ahead and put it in the chat stream just for fun, so we can see some of the things maybe you've done. Maybe it's a business mentorship, or maybe work with kids, at Bayside Kids Ministry. But it'd be fun to see some of the things you guys have done. So there's a verse in Titus that says this: older women likewise are to be reverent in behavior, not slanderers or slaves to much wine. I don't know why this is in there. Maybe there was a wine problem going on where Titus was around. They are to teach what is good, and so train the younger women to love their husbands and their children, to be self-controlled, pure, working at home, kind, submissive to their own husbands, that the word of God may not be reviled. Now, this was a cultural thing at the time, right? So that was culturally what women did. And so what Paul's telling Titus is, hey, there's some women there that have achieved a certain level of godliness, that really know what they're doing. And you really need to start pouring into these younger women. These younger women need to be connected to somebody who's gone before them. And it's a game changer.
Yeah, sure.
You guys have comments? I hope I'm not talking too over you or anything. No. So you jump in if you have a comment, Dan or Dave.
Yeah, well, actually, some about the mentoring part. I think that one of the things I've learned over the years is that we choose a mentor, right? Correct. But the mentor must also choose the mentee. It has to be a mutual relationship.
Oh yeah.
Or it does not work. And when you start that mentoring relationship and friendship specifically, I think it needs to also be agreed on what it is that you're going to work on and a timeline for that to be accomplished. Because I think sometimes we can get involved in friendships that are mentoring relationships, but there's no end date put on what the goal that you're trying to reach, and so then it becomes more of a giving on one side, and a lot of receiving on the other side, but never ever giving back. So that'd be the only thing that I would add.
That's so true, and that's kind of one of the points I was saying earlier, and I'm glad you brought it up. Because if you have a relationship that's a mentor-mentee relationship, it might be, coach might be used, but it's important to have an understood role. Because I don't know if you've ever had that friend that thinks they're your mentor, that constantly tells you what you should be doing in your life. That's just annoying. But if there's an agreement, like somebody sees something in somebody else that they need, that they know they have, and they want to be in that kind of a mentor-mentee relationship, then yeah, it has to be a mutual agreement. And those are huge. And I had those. Like even with a counselor I went to see that I paid to see, it was definitely a mentor-mentee relationship, and I was the mentee, and it was a mutually agreed upon relationship where we were working on very specific things. So I think that's a great point, Dan. Which
one of the other things I'm sorry, Dan. One of the things I would add is that I love what you said there about we were talking about the agreement part, but there's this idea that we have that sometimes we think everyone just wants to hear what we have to say about what we've experienced, when that's just not the case. And so one of the things I put into practice, even with people that I'm actually mentoring, is I'll ask them a question: do I have your permission to share how I feel about this with you?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's good, because that's honoring the relationship, and you're going at the speed that they can go at, which is I think is really good.
Yeah, you need that equity the relationship, whether it's a time thing or the affirmation that, hey, it's okay. Because it's sometimes that mentoring somebody, it can be painful on both sides for sure, because you definitely want that person who's mentoring you to speak truth. And then if you're mentoring somebody else, you want to speak truth, but boy, you don't want it to tear them down at the same time. And sometimes it's just loving people enough to be honest, but also knowing where our boundaries are. There's that word again, boundaries.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, Kathy Bennett said you need a level of trust to be able to speak into another's life.
Yeah,
and that's absolutely true. And that's really built over time.
100%.
So mentor-mentee relationship, it is a type of friendship. It's a it's interesting. The mentor, the counselor that I worked with for 2 years, we became very, very close, which is a normal thing. If I have very strong feelings. I really love this guy. Because he had been pouring into me. It's kind of natural to feel that way about somebody who's just been pouring into you. And so it is a type of friendship. It's a very strong type of, it can be a very strong type of friendship, very powerful type of friendship. But both people are receiving from that. Like the mentor and the mentee in those relationships, both really receive something important. And so I'm encouraging all of you, that's one relationship you want to establish, or friendship, is that mentor type. I want to spend a little time talking about how you know when you're done being a mentor, because I think that's important. And one of the things Dan said is, if you have an agreed upon issue you're working on, or something you're trying to accomplish, then you kind of know when that relationship is done, because you get to the point where you've accomplished it. They may have also learned everything they can learn from us. That happens sometimes with musicians, right? The student becomes the peer of the teacher, and you've outgrown the mentor's ability to teach you anymore. And sometimes, sadly though, sometimes you realize in a mentor-mentee relationship, as the giver, what you're giving is really it's not helping. It might be that the person that you initially set out to mentor, maybe they weren't quite ready for that next step in their lives. So then what can happen is it can lead to frustration on both parts. And so sometimes you realize, I've had to do that before, where I said, I don't think this is working, because it might be the advice I was giving they didn't think was good advice, which is fine, but that means that I'm not the mentor for them, right? Because
I was definitely going to say that there's times, if you ask somebody to mentor you, and all you do is, when you ask their advice, you disagree with them, then maybe you didn't ask the right person to mentor you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then you've got to take a look at ourselves and say, hey, look, maybe I need to humble myself a little bit, because if you really trust that person, really, and hopefully you made a wise decision.
Yeah.
You're saying put your pride away, because that's the only time you're going to grow is to be able to listen to that. And that person hopefully loves you enough to be honest with you.
Yeah, that's true. I'm seeing some of the comments in here too. Gwen Moore was talking about a Opportunity Knox mentoring program she was in. That was a huge, wonderful experience for students. And, when you look around, there's tons of really good programs like that. Sometimes they're programs, or sometimes they're more organic. But, I was going to read you guys, or talk to you a little bit about Christ's mentor relationship. You might not think about the Son of God, the second person of the Trinity, having a mentor relationship with the disciples, but he really did. And it's interesting, but that mentor relationship ended. He stopped becoming their mentor, and he actually called them friends. And it's in John 15:13-15. It says Jesus he was transitioning from a giver to more of a balanced friendship. He said, "Greater love has no one than this, than to lay down one's life for one's friends." So obviously he's showing his love for them as the mentor, as the leader, and as their savior, obviously, he's giving himself for them. There's nothing more he can give as a mentor than that, his life. And he says now to them, though, in verse 14, you are my friends if you do what I command. So he's now placing an expectation on their friendship. He's saying, you're my friends if you do what I command. And he says, I no longer call you servants, because a servant does not know what the master is doing. Instead, I've called you friends, for everything that I have learned from my Father, I have made known to you. Jesus said that to them on his last night on earth. He said that to them because he was bringing them up, and they were going to be taking the ministry forward. So he had brought them to the point where he needed to. And he was saying, I have now revealed everything to you that you need. Everything my Father has revealed to me. Here's the expectation for our friendship. You are now to go out and do the same thing that I've done to you. Love each other as I've loved you. You know, the Great Commission, all those things are a part of the expectation that Jesus put on the friendship that he had with his disciples. So you see a real smooth, successful transition from that mentorship to a friendship, and by Jesus' own words. So that's go ahead.
And each disciple, Dan, had their own relationship with Jesus, right? Yeah. It wasn't as if he said to all of them, "Okay, you're all going to be in the same place at the same time, learning the same thing." He had a personal relationship with each one of the disciples, and one of those disciples actually betrayed him. Now we can go into the whole conversation about why that happened and all that, but the fact of the matter is that one of the 12 that he was mentoring for 3.5 years actually betrayed him. And then one of them, the one that would become the leader of the known church, actually denied him on the day that Jesus needed him the most. But see, that's the thing about a mentor. Even if you turn your back on the mentor still goes through with the example.
Yeah.
And I think that's something we learned from Jesus in that. And when he saw Peter again, what did he do? He actually said, he mentored him again and say, "Hey, Peter,
right?
Do you love me?" So anyway, that's just one of the thoughts I had about when we mentor people, we don't have to have the same level of relationship with every single one of them. We can develop a personal relationship with each one.
You can't.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. Ricardo said he doesn't like the word mentor, but discipleship. You know, obviously that's what Jesus was doing. He was forming little Jesuses, but they were individuals, like Dan said. He didn't give them a book at the beginning, a curriculum at the beginning of the 3 years, and they didn't fill out the papers and get through. You know, they all had different issues. Some of them were closer to him, you know, to Peter, James, and John. And he had different expectations for them. And so the mentor relationship was very fluid with them, and he brought them up to a place where he entrusted them. I mean, if you think about it, man, he entrusted them with the very gospel message, the good news, the program of God for salvation to get the word out to everybody. He gave it to his friends. And I think it's just powerful to see what a mentoring relationship, or what that kind of leader-follower discipleship relationship can do for somebody. So that's the giver relationship, which I think if you don't have one yet, you know, start praying about it and see about where God might take you to develop that kind of a friendship in someone's life. And the church can help if you have no ideas. You know, you could sign up for some of the different volunteer opportunities they have, but that's one. And so the second one is the receiver that we talked about. And, you know, as you get older, it may get a little harder to be a receiver, because, you know, you get up there in age, and pretty soon, you know, there's nobody that has more experience than you. But there's always a place in your life where you can receive. And so I like to learn. I mean, I'm always trying to learn something. And in my life right now, like I told you earlier, I'm writing a book with Chris Watako, co-authoring it with her, and so I'm learning a lot about the authoring process. She's authored, multiple books, but I am receiving, in that sense. I'm learning a lot about that. I also I'm kind of getting into this new world of technology. And so I'm depending on other people to mentor me through that as well. But I also have certain people in my life that I really look up to. And, people like Ray Johnston or some of the other pastors on our staff who have a lot of experience, have more experience than me, and that I can call and that I can talk to and I can process with. And I receive in those relationships.
Yeah.
I'm not really bringing a lot necessarily to those relationships. There's not an expectation of it. There's only a few relationships in my life I have where I'm strictly a receiver. Like I said, it's a little different than it used to be, but I still am. I still am receiving in different areas of my life where I need to grow. Couple of things you need to be a receiver. Humility. Humility is important. There's people I know that don't know everything, but they think that they can figure it all out themselves. And usually that's a recipe for disaster. So it does take humility. It takes teachability. It takes somebody who really wants to learn. It takes commitment to be a receiver. So you have to be committed to a process or committed to a person. The thing about being a receiver, I think that's sometimes the hardest is what we like to call feedback.
I was just thinking that, Dan. I was just thinking that word. I was like, I'm waiting for the moment to jump in. I'm waiting for the moment to jump in.
Well, why don't you jump in? Feedback. Yeah. Take it away, Dan.
Well, it's just a comment we all three of us have heard, especially from Ray, as he said, you can accept feedback, or you can be somebody who seeks feedback. And somebody that seeks feedback will have the other qualities you mentioned. You have the humility, and then you also be vulnerable because you're letting someone see the weaknesses in you to be able to speak into those weaknesses. And so, but you have to be willing to accept that feedback. And it reminded me of a 360-degree evaluation that was done at a place I used to work in. Mm-hmm. And some of the pastors on the staff had gotten pretty slammed by that 360-degree evaluation. And instead of their conversation being, man, I didn't realize I was like that. It was more of, they don't know what they're talking about. I'm not like that. And I'm like, wait, if you didn't want to receive the feedback, we should have asked for it. So that's just
That's exactly right.
Yeah, 360 reviews are brutal.
They are brutal. Hey, Chris Watako online right now.
Oh my gosh, hey. I just mentioned your name. Yes, she is brilliant and funny, and we were working on this material together. But we were talking about this giver and receiver thing. But yeah, I've received a lot of wisdom from her as an author and a speaker. She speaks all over the world, actually. And what a trip. This is awesome you're here, Chris. At some point, maybe we'll get together and we'll do something together for all of you. But so the feedback thing, though, is interesting. There's really three kinds, they say, right? The people that don't want feedback, the people that are, they can receive feedback, and the people that seek out feedback. And it's been my experience, the people that seek out feedback are very few. So most people, because when you receive feedback, it can hurt. It can sting a little, right? I'll give you an example. When somebody says, your breath stinks. Oops, I just received some feedback.
That booger. You've had a booger in your nose for the last 2 hours. No, you guys don't.
Here's an Altoid. You always accept it. Guys, accept the Altoid, period. 100%.
We've all heard the stories. People that walk out of the bathroom that have toilet paper on their shoe. There's always things in our lives that are embarrassing. Feedback can kind of feel like that sometimes, like it's criticizing you as a person, But the purpose of feedback, you need to realize as a receiver, the purpose of feedback is growth. And the more feedback you get that's true, and the better you can apply the feedback to your life, the more you'll grow. It's true in marriage. It's true in business. It's true as a speaker. It's true in every area of life. So you need, as a receiver, you need to find the kinds of people that will give you honest, true, good feedback that can deliver it in a way that you can understand. But what if you sought out feedback? What if you're struggling in dating? What if you said, I have all these problems in dating, what's going on? Because I think most of us, like if we're having problems in dating, we say, man, the problem is all these people I'm dating, right? Or what if in business you say, I'm never getting promoted. What's wrong with my boss? He's an idiot. He can't see, that I'm a good employee. Or what's wrong with my boss? I do work extra and she never gives me any accolades or whatever. We tend to blame other people. But what if we said, hey, how can I do a better job at work? What's going on? I noticed I haven't got a promotion the last couple of times. What could I work on? And then you would get feedback, and the feedback might sting a little, like, well, some of your work's a little sloppy, or, I noticed you come in a little late, or, you need to start meeting other people. Maybe you're not networking the way you should. A lot of us don't know. And so it's true.
Hey, Dan, one of the things about that too is as a manager or as a leader of anything, when somebody comes up and asks you, hey, how can I improve there? Man, I mean, it really helps that relationship. It's like, man, this person really wants to get to the next level, and it makes you really want to help them attain that level. So then all of a sudden, that relationship between the mentor and the mentee could form right there. But I'm telling you, I love it when people say, hey, Dave, where do you think I should? Boy, it's like, that's awesome, because a lot of times we don't offer it, or it's not even right. It's not right to offer things that you may feel about something that you see, and unless they ask for the advice, right? So it's really key. That's a big deal.
Yeah, it is. What's interesting is I was talking to somebody the other day in ministry who said that they're on a worship team, and they said, worship leader, they'd gone to a drummer at this one church and asked the drummer, how was your experience? How was your experience today? Volunteering. He's a volunteer drummer, right? That's what he was doing. And the drummer said this: no one has ever asked me that before. Now think about that. Like, here's a volunteer, here's a guy on a team, and no one had ever asked him, how can we make your experience as a volunteer better, right? Man, that convicted me as a leader. That's seeking feedback as a leader, right? How can I lead better?
Yeah, 100%.
How could our church be better? How could I be a better child to my parent, or a better brother or sister? I mean, there's so many areas where we could grow if we would be willing to receive feedback. Yep. And that's critical in order to be a receiver. Somebody, that kind of a friend who is willing to look at themselves and has a desire to grow. So, again, it's kind of one of those things, though. I think there's some friends that kind of appoint themselves as our givers, and they expect us to receive. It's the same dynamic. There has to be trust built both ways, and there has to be an understanding that I'm in this to receive, and I respect you, and I respect your authority, and I'm committed to receiving from you. And so that's a great kind of friendship to have. Jesus said this about his disciples, right? He said, very truly, I tell you, whoever believes in me will do the works I have been doing, and they will do even greater things than these, because I am going to the Father. When you're receiving, just like Jesus was saying, these people were receiving, the disciples receiving, he said, you're going to do even greater things than me. And that's mind-boggling to think, but God is going to work through those people, those disciples, and Jesus was committing to that. And if you're willing to put yourself in a place to receive as a friend and have that kind of a friendship, you're going to grow. So in your life, we all need the balancer, and we focus on the balanced relationships, those being that balancer. We focus on those friendships so much, and sometimes we miss the fact that being really a complete person is having somebody I can give to, having somebody I can mentor, I can help along, I can disciple, and having somebody that can pour into me because I need it. And there's a lot of areas in my life I could look at and I could say, okay, I need this, and going after it intentionally, making sure that those kinds of relationships happen. And so those are the first two kinds of friendships. The balanced one is going to take a lot more time. So we're going to spend next week talking about the balancer or the balanced friendship, because those friendships usually are the longest lasting, the most powerful, the most transformative, and the most trouble in our lives. And so,
hey, Dan,
I want to end it on that. Yeah, go ahead, Dan.
Well, you're going to end it. No, you're not going to end it. We still got like
we're not ending anything, pal.
I'm going to let you talk now.
I just got super stoked when you said something about Jesus and the disciples and how he left them. Because here's what we should have as people who are mentors or those who are discipling others. Our goal should be that they will become better at what we do than we are.
Right.
I mean, if the Son of God, if Jesus, who came down from heaven, literally to take on the form of a human and die on the cross, sinless, said to his disciples, "You're going to do even greater things than I have done on this earth." That means when he poured into them, he was expecting that they would rise above even what he was able to accomplish. And so I think that that also becomes a part of being humble on the part of the person who is the giver.
Yes.
Because when you are humble as the giver, you recognize it's not a competition. It's not about you being the one that everybody comes to. It's you have something that you can give and you can pour into someone else's life. But when you do pour it into their life, expect that they could even take it farther than you could ever.
It's the best. It's the greatest compliment, whether you're teaching whatever about these subjects or music or fishing or the Bible, what have you. It is. It's really a great gift to receive that and to watch that happen. It's a great compliment, and that's what we should want. It's when that happens, you know you were doing something okay, you know.
Yeah, I was thinking about this. A giver is really a leader.
Yeah,
giver is a leader in someone's life, and I love a saying that Andy Stanley says: "Leadership is stewardship. It's temporary, right? Leadership is given to you by God. It's temporary, and if your goal is to make somebody better, to help them, God may answer that prayer of yours, or He may achieve that goal. And I think it does take humility, like Dan says, to not say, "Oh my gosh, they're better than me now," because what a compliment!
Yeah,
what a compliment to your leadership in their life. And there's all kinds of places you can go to receive at Bayside. Like they have, that's what Celebrate Recovery is all about, right? I'm struggling in this area. That's all about that kind of a relationship, the giver and the receiver. And people walk with you through that. And sometimes I've seen it where people go into Celebrate Recovery, broken, hurting, really needing, help with their hurts, hangups, and habits, right? And then within a few years, they're leaders.
Yeah.
They're in front, they're leading groups, they're helping people. It's a process they're in, and it is so healthy. It's designed by the Lord to have these kinds of relationships where we're giving and we're receiving and giving and receiving. And it's powerful when we're all involved in doing that in other people's lives.
Yeah. Carl had a question. I thought it might be really good for us to tackle. How can you better learn to take feedback without it always, I think he meant hurting, without it always hurting?
I think it depends on who you're getting the feedback from, right? If someone says, "You idiot," that's a form of feedback, right? But that's not very kind. That's not what somebody who's leading you would say. I think if you have the mentor-mentee kind of relationship, or disciple relationship, then you really have to understand the intention of the person that's leading you. If their intention is to help you, then it should take some of the sting out. Now there might be some work you need to do, right? You might need to go to counseling if you got some deep-seated insecurities. I have. I've got deep-seated insecurities, right? That probably came with me from childhood, and so when I've heard feedback, sometimes it's hurt my feelings, or I've taken it too hard. The reality is that's kind of something that's broken inside of me that needs to be fixed. But if I know someone loves me and they have my best interest in mind, then the feedback is going to help. Okay, a little honesty here, okay? A little transparency. As a speaker, as a public speaker, when I first started off in public speaking, I had some hits and misses, mostly misses. So, I'd go up there, I'd do my thing, I'd get off the stage, and, feedback, not great. And it hurt deep down in my soul. And the reason was because my identity was tied into what I was doing, right? So my identity was in the speaking. So if something was wrong with my speaking, there was something wrong with me. And if I could disconnect my identity from what I was doing, it was a lot easier to kind of look at my speaking objectively, say, oh yeah, I could get better at that. I could do that. And so I think part of it is looking at not taking the feedback as a personal attack against you as a person, but saying, I'm a child of God. I am safe and secure. I am valuable. Jesus died for me. He has a purpose for me. He's got things for me to do that no one else can do. I have a role to play. And so I want feedback to play that role better.
That's exactly right.
So it's kind of the identity conversation I think you have to have yourself to.
It's so healthy to hear you say that, because I think we all get ourselves wrapped in this identity of maybe you're a postman or a speaker or a writer or a musician. When we put our identity in those things other and not in Christ, that's where we get in trouble. And I learned the same thing about music. It's like I wanted to play better live. I played great. By the way, I played my best stuff right here in front of this computer, right? But nobody cared about that. But I didn't want. I wanted to be better for the wrong reason. And once I said, listen, I'm defined by being a Christian, being a husband, being a dad, being a friend, and way down the road is the musician thing. The funniest thing, the best musician I know is the same thing as Lincoln Brewster. That's just part of him. So listen, that's wisdom. Don't let these other things define who we are. The first priority is you're a child of God. You're a Christian. That's the most important thing.
You know what's even more dangerous than tying your identity to what you're doing and feeling insecure about it. The only thing that's more dangerous than that is succeeding. Think about this for a minute. So your identity is tied in what you're doing, and you're killing it. Now you've got a huge potential pride problem. You're going to probably fall. There's all kinds of huge problems associated with your identity. So it's important to kind of detach that and try and grow as a person and understand who you are in Christ. That's it. That's the rock.
Yeah.
Everything else is really all about growth, personal growth with Christ, in your relationship with Him, growth in your relationships, your friendships, those mentor relationships, all these relationships we have. It's all about growth, and our identity is solid. It's rock solid in Christ.
Once God made that change in my life, all the things that I wanted and I aspired to were given to me.
Yeah.
It was just crazy. It's like, show some humility. Just be my son, Dave.
Yeah.
Would you just love me and listen to me a little bit? I'm going, okay.
Yeah.
I think speaking to Carl. Oh, sorry, Dave. Were you done?
Good. It's all good.
I think speaking to Carl's question is that when you develop a relationship with someone that you've gone through a lot of the testing in that relationship where something has gone wrong, you've gotten back on track again, you guys are closer or because of it, and you've gotten to know why this person does the way they do things, what they're all about, and you can truly say they're a friend. When you do seek feedback from them, you can trust at that point that they're saying it not to make you feel bad or not to make you feel pressed down, but to encourage you that you can do it. But sometimes what we do is we seek feedback from people we have not developed a relationship with. And I think that when we seek feedback from people that we don't have a relationship with, and then they literally tell it like it is, we don't have that ability. It's like on a bridge built with popsicle sticks. I mean, you can just step on that bridge and it just crumbles. And especially if we look up to this person and we're seeking that feedback and then they give it to us, it's like somebody walking on AGT's stage and Simon Cowell literally tells them, "You can't sing," when all of their friends and family have told them they can sing, and it hurts. It hurts. Yeah. Carl, I think that my biggest encouragement would be develop the relationship with someone. And over time, when they do share some things with you about what's going on in your life, it'll be done in a trusting way, in an environment where it's safe, and where you won't walk away going, believing the lie that the enemy is telling you, saying, "See, I told you that you were not as good as you thought you were."
Yeah. Rob Edmiston, I hope I said that right, Rob, had a really interesting point. He said, you often hear that dating or marriage relationships become your best friends. How do these three types of friendships flow within these relationships? That's a great question. And I think really your best friend, your spouse, it is a friendship. It's a peer friendship, right? It's not a mentor-mentee. You're neither one of those. However, think about this. If you have gotten in the habit of being the kind of person that's pouring into somebody else, you're being selfless, you're being sacrificial, you're giving, really for nothing in return. I mean, it feels good to help somebody else, but you're giving to somebody else. That is a good thing to bring into a marriage. If you're the kind of person that's humble and can receive feedback, I'm telling you what, you get feedback in marriage. So if you're the kind of person that could receive feedback, it helps you in marriage. Yeah. So it's kind of a weird dynamic, but if you have these well-rounded relationships in your life, then yeah, it definitely helps in dating and marriage relationships. It's a lot more complex than that, but it's certainly kind of how I would see that it ties in.
Good stuff.
So have you ever gotten this? So it's just on a little lighter note. So Dan, you mentioned public speaking, and thankfully it's come to a point for me where I can literally seek the feedback from someone, and I don't take it personally, right? Because I did have my identity at some point wrapped up in that. But has anybody, when you've gotten off, ever said, "Well, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be"?
If you're mentoring somebody, really work on your bedside manner, okay?
Yeah, that's exactly what I referred to.
You don't want to hear could have been worse.
Yeah. Yeah. And another altruism is this. Man, I love my mom, and she loves everything I do. But when I'm seeking, like, let's say, musical feedback, or I don't go to my mom, because, man, ever since I was a kid singing in choir, oh, you are fantastic, and you bombed like crazy, right? Don't sing it from your mom.
Yeah. When we're talking about giving and receiving feedback, though, it was in the context of those relationships, right? We've talked about building trust. We've talked about giving and receiving, and obviously you're going to pray about it sometimes. You want to make sure that whatever the feedback is that you're getting also lines up with Scripture, or maybe God cements it in your mind, or maybe there's other people that agree. But it's kind of in that context. So sometimes you get feedback that's helpful from people that you don't want to get it from, but this, we're kind of talking in the context of these relationships.
Well, any musician that's out there, Dave, you are the most out of the three of us, the best musician among the three of us.
Wow.
There's no doubt. Hands down.
Well,
I cannot shred like you can shred.
Okay, man. Wow.
Matter of fact, I have a crooked finger now, so I can't shred at all. So but feedback, the very word feedback for a musician causes you to cringe because you know what that sounds like. And it shocks the system, right, Dave? Yeah. Not just the sound system, it shocks the bodily system because you're not expecting it. It throws you off your game sometimes. But then somebody's in the back correcting, like making corrections to make sure it doesn't happen again. Or sometimes, and I love this analogy, as a musician, if you step behind the speaker, isn't that how it works, Dave? If you step behind the speaker,
in front of it,
if you step in front of the speaker, you've actually positioned yourself in a place where you will cause that feedback to hurt.
Yeah. One of the great mentors that I know is Lincoln Rooster, and he's a great guy, great human being. Learned so much from him. What he's really honest, but he's not about breaking people down either. Like so, and then this guy's literally one of the best guitar players in the world. Anybody who knows anything about electric guitar, right? But I've seen him come on the stage, or come off the stage, and he'll say, "Well, did you have fun?" Rather than, "Boy, could you have played better?" He's just, he's not going to go there, particularly in front of everybody else. He's going to do it in an appropriate manner, and that's really is finding somebody that is going to they don't want to break you. They want to help you to get to the next place, because I can tell you, and so many, particularly in music, man, and just in life in general, there are some people that find pleasure in hurting others. And so that's why you really got to be careful in who we trust, right? God tells us what does he tell us about our hearts? He tells us to guard our heart. And that's one of the things we need to do as well.
Yeah, and if somebody doesn't believe Dave, just look on someone's Facebook feed. Right? The comments. Oh my gosh. No.
Oh my gosh is right. Well, we're getting way past our time here, but gosh, what a fun topic. And you guys had some great Chris, it's great to see you.
Yeah, it was cool to have Chris jump on here.
Absolutely.
She's actually in I think South Carolina. She's somewhere on the East Coast right now, so later so get her on. But yeah, next week we'll talk about friendship, because like I said, that gets the balanced one, because that gets dicey at times, and there's a lot we have to learn about friendships. So
well, somebody's at my door for some reason. I have no idea why, but I will unfortunately be away next week. And if I can chime in, I will. I'll be up in Washington State. There's a couple of friends of ours.
We got you, baby.
Place up there. But I really want to be on, and I see what I can do, but I might not be able to make it next week. Bummer.
You've been such a faithful friend and servant to this ministry, Dan, Crystal, and Dan Houk, obviously. What a fun night, you guys. Thanks for your time, Dan Houk. Gosh, you were fantastic tonight. You want some feedback? You crushed it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, David.
It's the roof.
You should write a
tomorrow when it's calmed down. You can tell me the other feedback.
No, man, I'm telling you what. And you know how you could tell? There is a bunch of good comments and great conversation on the chat stream. So
yeah,
so great, you guys. So nice to have all of you with us tonight. And remember, you guys, a lot of us are lonely. A lot of us don't have roommates. And reach out to us via Facebook. Just reach out if you need anything. And those of us who know people that are that are single and don't have anybody in the house, it's our job to reach out to them as well.
That's right. And if you need a Facebook friend, Dan, Crystal, and I,
Dan, Crystal, and Ashley will take all conversations.
So,
well, I can't.
Dan, Crystal, Facebook.
I'm kind of.
Take a moment. If I could just have you open up your email real fast.
What's that?
I don't know. Somebody opening up an email real fast.
Oh, you can hear that. Oh my gosh. Hold on, please. There's somebody trying to call me, and I'm like, I told him I was on a live Facebook feed, and he's still talking on the phone.
He goes, huh? Hey, give him some feedback.
Hi, guys.
Give him some feedback.
Love you guys. Good to see you.
We'll see you. You guys, we'll see you next week. Go in God's grace, and we will see you guys next week. Same time, same place. The second part of this friendship thing. Thank you, Dan and Dan. Love you guys so much.
Love you
Peace,
too.
guys.